I don't know about burning the Koran, but this I do know. Starting from an illiterate background, the Koran is memorized by every child that's a faithful Muslim. This is produced as part of the ongoing work on the website, thewaythetruthandthelife.net. This is fifth in the series, Muslims Need Help Too. Please look at the earlier four for more background. Around 600 years after Jesus Christ, this man, Mohammad, made himself a prophet of a single God, which he had learned of while working on camel caravans from the Jewish and Christians that he traveled among. His own tribe in Mecca rejected him, but he did have followers that were persecuted by his tribe. Many fled and received security even under Christian governance of Ethiopia. He was forced out of Mecca, and with a small band of followers, he made himself a prophet, spokesman for this single God, just like Judaism. And he used the rationale of Judaism turned upside down. This rationale of Judaism was to convict societies that were sacrificing children and doing idol worship, that they were judged as unsafe to live by and were at war and forced off or exterminated. That's true. And Muhammad used this rationale and turned it upside down to serve him and the one God, Allah. That's why his own tribe was against him. His own tribe was polytheist and would not accept him as a prophet. So with the few followers that he had, he turned into a despot and left Mecca, went off making war on villages, and set up a pyramid scheme where his gang was rewarded by getting wives and booty, and he gained new members by murdering those who would not submit, and their children and wives that were able to work or serve as wives were taken as slaves. When he gained enough power, he come back and he killed his own tribe. And he went on to apparently personally behead over 600 men of the Jewish tribe that wouldn't help them. He took, of course, all their booty and the slaves, and he rewarded his people and went on from there. He never had a land. Everything that Islam has, they've gotten by rape, pillage, and plunder, by the sword. They've taken, they've stolen, they've murdered, they've beheaded, they've raped. And then they are under subjection of this law, and it's all for the justified for the sake of Allah. That's the truth. And wherever Islam gains a majority, the book itself was first of all nice towards Jews and Christians. But that was before they returned to Mecca to eradicate or convert Muhammad's own tribe. And the time that the Meccan Jewish tribe did not help Muhammad, so he exterminated those that would not convert and enslaved the women and children and killed the men. Well, Muhammad thought the people of the book, the Jews that worshipped and Christians that worshipped one God, would accept him as the latest and greatest prophet. He prayed towards the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. When he changed his mind that the Jews were not going to support him, he changed and started praying towards Mecca. When something like 7 years after they went back to Mecca and defeated the Arab tribe of Mohammad, he had a surah. That's when he got angry at the Jewish tribe. And he had a surah, number 2, that Allah can abrogate, change anything, and bring something better or do away with it. And after that, he had Surah 9. Now, the surahs are mixed up so that the initiate doesn't know about it. And but every imam knows that surahs after number 2, chronologically, are what count. But the numerical order doesn't show this. So it's confusing to the initiate. Also, the Koran does give permission to lie, and it does say of the non-believers, like in number 9, cut off their fingers, cut off their heads, and make false treaties. That is, keep them for a time, but then after a time, if they don't convert, murder them, enslave them. And that is what it teaches. And the law that comes out of this that makes it so there's no state with Islamic law where you can freely preach religion. You can't open and have a Bible study in an Islamic country. You can't advertise. And if anybody that's a Muslim converts, it's by Islamic law the death penalty for you and the one who proselytized them, that is, the one who spoke another religion to them. Just like the Christian Holy Land was taken over by rape, pillage, plunder, and enslavement, conversion by the sword, so was the area of Armenia, called the area of the 7 churches in the Bible, where in those days you could freely walk and preach. Now it's an Islamic country. It's been converted by murder. And here's a picture of 3 men murdered just lately in Turkey for printing Bibles. And now if you check today, in 2010, under Erdogan in Turkey, the very people that would try to restore secular government are being accused of the murder which was done by Islamists, supporters of the Erdogan government. Take a look at what's going on there in the subterfuge. And this is where the 7 churches were. Take a look at this. Follow these things up. Take a look at this. Remember, Sunni Islam teaches to deceive the non-believers. It started off without even a meaningful alphabet. And the conquest of Persia, they beat that army because a dust storm was come from behind them and blew in the face, and they destroyed a much superior army. But they were illiterate, and when they forced those Persians that they left live, were very literate, had a very good culture, and could write the Koran in Persian. That was why now everything has to be in Arabic, because at that time the Arabs had to memorize. They had a very primitive alphabet, but that was all. Their inferiority complex led them to make everything so perfect, which was Arabic. And they invented this language with a whole bunch of dots to get enough characters to express the phonetic sounds. It's a shame. If you look, I'm a mathematician and physicist by degree. If all the nonsense about how they invented mathematics, it's a bunch of nonsense. And wonderful Christian devoted men like Newton now. But look at Spain. the rape, pillage, and plunder they did in taking virgins every year to ship to harems in North Africa. Please look at the way they destroyed the libraries and burned the books that were exposing the Koran, and how they murdered authors, and what they did to the library that was left in Alexandria. And look at what they've done to the Christians in Egypt. Egypt was a Christian country. Please look at, and we need to help these poor Muslims. They're caught in this cult, or this theocracy, this terrible, evil, murderous suicide cult. Innocent children, the faces are innocent. The mothers sacrificing their children. Look at their face. They're like innocent little children. They're doing this out of faith in this terrible, terrible, evil book. So I don't know about burning the Quran, but it says that Jesus didn't really die on the cross, and that he was not the Christ. He was just another prophet, and he made mud birds and they flew away. But Mohammad is a greater prophet and the last prophet. He's a false prophet, and he's used these rationales to build a pyramid scheme that has taken something like a third of the world. And wherever they have a foothold, they're growing by violence, intimidation, and seduction. Seduction usually where they don't have a majority. Now that's the truth of the matter. Somebody needs to stand up and protect non-Muslims from the advance of this pyramid scheme that advances, first of all, with the seduction of being nicey-nicey, and then by the sword. And then by terrorism. Don't kid yourself. This country started off confronting the terrorism of Islam. It paid 20% of its federal budget to these criminals to get back what was left of our ships and crews that they had not murdered and enslaved. Don't kid yourself. I don't know about burning the Quran, but it is definitely a book that preaches murder and hatred. It does say Jews and Christians are apes and pigs. Before that, Surah number 2, Jews and Christians were people of the book because they believed in a single God. So they could go on living in peace as long as they paid the protection racket money of the pyramid scheme. And that's the truth. Thank you. My wife is from Armenia. She grew up around Muslims, and her criticism of the video that I made was that a need to understand burning the Quran won't change things. The innocent little children have to memorize this hate as a duty. They don't hate, they're conditioned. They only have the choice to rebel or comply to the memorized Quran. And if they rebel, it's the death penalty. So burning the Quran doesn't change the indoctrination of making young minds memorize this so they grow up innocently hating Jews and Christians and willingly deceive, but then when it comes to warfare, willing to die and murder. Innocent children are taught to memorize and worship the Quran. It's in their soul. And if you burn this which they're taught to worship, they will hypnotically react with hatred. How do we help the Muslims? I didn't mean to limit it to Jews and Christians. Actually, they're a little bit privileged. All non-Muslims. Look at the Buddhist teachers they're murdering in Thailand. Look at the Hindu teachers they're murdering in India, and look at what the murdering that they're doing in the northern parts of India where Muslims are a majority, and the wars that have gone on and the murder that's gone on wherever the Muslims get a foothold, like in southern Philippines. Thank you.